It's time for Push2Plat, your weekly trophy podcast with Mindy and CJ.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Push2Plat, your trophy podcast with CJ and Mindy on a very relaxing, warm, sunny Friday afternoon here in Sydney, or approaching rather late Thursday night in America. Mindy, how are you today?
I don't know if I'm relaxed or creeped out by your voice right now.
Well, it's been a bit of a horror week, to be honest, so maybe we should be more creeped out than relaxed, yeah. Have you had a good week?
Yeah, it's been all right.
Oh, good. You're not going to elaborate from that, I take it?
No, not at all.
Excellent. Okay, good. Well, short and brief, listeners, because as you know, we tend to run long anyway. So why don't we just jump in now? Just before we introduce the guests today, listeners, would you just indulge me for 2 seconds, please? There we go. ResidentDarrell, how are you today, sir?
What's up, nerds and dorks? Man, that was a fantastic intro.
It was much better, wasn't it?
Jesus, if I had known, I would have gotten my own beer. All I have in the house is scotch.
Oh, we could use that. Listeners, if you remember, we've had ResidentDarrell on before, and he did pull that little shenanigan on us. So this time I was going to make sure that I was ready. Although that is your calling card, isn't it? Have you ever done a podcast without doing that?
Yes, actually, for years I didn't do it. It started off as just like a toast. You know, when we started our old shows, we would like, hey, let's celebrate something in gaming, because one of the pillars of us wanting to podcast was to talk about what we enjoyed about video games instead of sitting back as like, you know, as grumpy gamers and going, man, this game sucks. Everything sucks. So I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to crack open, you know what I'm saying, a toast into something in gaming or something going on that was cool as a way to start every show celebrating. And one day, I don't even know why it started, but somebody slurped their drink on the microphone. And I used to edit all that kind of stuff out, you know? And then we had people write in and email us and say, dude, what's up with the slurping? So then it escalated from slurping to slurping and burping, because, you know, as the good, kind-hearted human beings that we are, if you tell us that something annoys you, we're not only going to do it more, but then we're going to escalate it. And so I just started doing that on shows, and then it went from a toast to start the show off with it, because this goes back to Tricky, because he would be like, man, you got to stop doing that. And I take my headphones off whenever I hear it coming. So then I switched it up to the intro of the show, and then now it's just a thing. It's just kind of stuck.
See, for the longest time, I just assumed it was because you like drinking, like myself. But, you know, there's actually a reason behind it. Yeah, a gaming reason. Yep. That's good.
There
I
you
like
go.
it.
Celebrate.
Yeah, look, why not? Now, I'm going to ask, though, is this an energy drink, or is this of an alcoholic substance?
Oh, man. And I see that's where people get kind of like, they get kind of disappointed.
Yes.
Because I've been cracking cans for years, and it's not until recently people actually started asking, what are you drinking? And sometimes it ranges. Right now, it's an sugar-free energy drink, because I'm on this low-carb meal plan.
Yes.
Every now and again, I'll do like a couple months of like clean eating, or several weeks span of clean eating, so that it'll be like baking soda in a can, those like sparkling waters or LaCroix or things like that. And then when I really want to get wild and get turned up, as the kids are saying, I'll bust out a Diet Coke.
It's a sugar rush, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is I actually don't drink. So like for me, it's coffee, water, and the occasional energy drink. And I say occasional very sarcastically. But yeah, I actually do not like the taste of alcohol one bit. So it's just like, yeah, it was just funny because people think, and actually I think you said it once on the show. It might have been you said it as a guest on Trophy Horse, but somebody said something about, yeah, right now I feel like Darrell cracking a beer, and I kind of chuckled because I was like, "That's what it sounds like," but I never thought about it that way.
So, Australian listeners, if you've just wondered why the last minute was beeped out by you, that is the Australian government just blocking that Darrell has been promoting non-drinking. I want to assure you, as a fellow Australian citizen, we do not approach this a belief in any way. And it is approaching 12 o'clock here. The bar will be open shortly. Please make your way to the drinking position. Thank you.
It would be absolutely hilarious if you did bleep out everything I said.
Well, look, Australians would have blinked at that totally, completely and gone, what is he talking about?
I was going to say, they tend to censor a lot of stuff anyway, don't they?
Yes, yeah. Drinking is allowed, though. Everything else here is censored, but drinking is allowed. Anyway, let's move on. Although I am intrigued, Mindy, by the Scotch. Please don't let us stop you. If you feel the need as we go.
Maybe when I'm done with my tea. I'm a responsible drinker.
What flavor is the tea today?
Got it out of a box. It's like a mixed berry thing. There's no caffeine in it.
Oh, I see you're sort of slumming it like the rest of us these days. Yeah, perfect. Okay, look, listen.
Oh, see, down on caffeine.
See, listeners, look, we've discussed our dietary habits. We must be getting old now when we have to watch out stuff like this, isn't it? It's dreadful. But anyway, let me put my teeth back in and we'll continue. So we have a question here today, and this question came in on the PlayStation 4 community, and I thought it would be a good question to ask. Because we have a diverse group, obviously, today here with myself, Darrell, and Mindy. So the question here came from, here it is at the top. It came from iShadow Soldier 1, and he asks, what is your goal, everyone? Do you aim to get as many trophies as possible to get X amount of plats, or what? What is your goal? So Darrell, would you like to kick us off? What's your goal?
I am going to continue to hunt trophies and get platinums until it's not fun anymore. And I am going, 2006 is when the Xbox 360 came out. And that's when I got my first achievements. And I went from achievements to trophies because those are way cooler. And then, I've been chasing this stuff for 13 years and it's stronger now than it's ever been. So I don't see myself stopping anytime soon, but I don't have a number in mind. I'm just going to do it till it's not fun anymore.
That's a pretty good answer, I think. Yeah. Okay, Mindy, do you have a goal?
I don't really have one. I guess my goal is to not recoil in existential horror every time I look at my trophy log.
I thought your goal would be to try and remove PS3 from your memory bank.
Hey, you know what? You laugh, but I'll save that for what we've been playing this week. Boom.
Fair enough.
I guess if I had to set a goal, I would say get up to, 98% completion. That's about another point and a quarter percent completion that I currently have.
And that's attainable for you, isn't it? Like you don't have a lot of games that
right now, I don't think, knock on wood, I don't think I have a single game that cannot be completed. Whether or not I'm good enough to do it is an entirely different thing. But in terms of, I'm just looking at my incomplete list right now. I don't think there's a single game on here that is not able to be completed. I shouldn't say that until I finish the online trophies on PS3. But other than that,
insane.
Yeah, everything else is single player. Oh, well, technically this Minecraft one I can't complete because one of the trophies is glitched, but I'm holding out for a patch there.
My goal from this point on is the opposite of that.
Yeah, I like that, Darrell. Yeah. So look, I don't know, iShadow. Like, I was thinking about this because I noticed that you posted in the community that you got your first plat this week. So congratulations to you. That's fantastic. I mean, Darrell's all about first plats.
What was it?
That's right.
We were going to talk about it later, but it's actually it's a really good one too. That's why I'm going to hold it till the end because I want to talk and send a direct question to iShadow, so he can get back to us on that game. But anyway, so I was thinking about it, and I think that perhaps. Like, I remember getting my first plat as well, the glorious Assassin's Creed Unity with the 1,000,001 red chests. 1,000,001. I don't know why there was so many.
That's amazing.
It was crazy, that game, wasn't it? Yeah. And but look, I enjoyed that game. I don't remember all the other plats in between, to be honest with you, but I remember that one. But I think the more you get, perhaps the less important the numbers become, not to everybody, but to myself. And it sounds the same to you two as well. But I remember there was a time where it was very important. I had a goal to reach level 100. I really, I pushed very hard for that, and that was exciting. But as with everything, as you learn, it's an arbitrary number. When you reach it, nothing happens. Well, except for your console crashing more often because you have too many games loaded up, but on your trophy list. But nothing sort of happens, but keeps going. But I think the other funny thing that tends to happen is that when you play a ton of games, and Darrell's in the same position, and Mindy too, you just naturally acquire trophies sometimes without even trying. So you sort of say to people you don't care anymore, and you're not really that focused on it, but you are still earning a ton of trophies as well as it goes. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that I have no goal of earning more trophies. I think it will just happen naturally. I think my goal perhaps is to discover more games on other systems. I don't know if you know this, Darrell, but today is Gears 5 Day on the Xbox.
Gears 5 Day.
So that's a series I've never played. So that's it's a massive slight on myself. Oh. We had Blair Witch on Xbox as well, just in the last week too. So there's a lot of stuff there. Over on the Switch, the Three Houses has come out last week, and it's just I think there's a lot of other things that interest me now other than just trophies. But having said that, I still seem to be earning a lot. So I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. I suppose it's different things for everybody. Yeah. Anyone else want to throw anything there, or happy?
I was going to say, going back to what you said about getting your first one, and of course we did that show with Hector to get his Basehead Hex, and man, once I got my first platinum, it was like it turned a light switch on. It was like, okay, getting achievements, that was cool. Getting trophies, that's cool. But this platinum thing, and then from 1 to 100, I was just like almost uncomfortable when I wasn't playing, when I wasn't getting trophies and working towards that. And I didn't, the spam games weren't hot yet. That wasn't a thing yet. And so I had to play real games to get there. And then I had to play at the time, Telltale games. That was the spam, at least as far as I was concerned. And, I had to fight my way through Hannah Montana, which I did with my daughter. I would never play that by myself, but I did.
Yeah. I'm not trying to hide the fact that I've played all those games or whatever else, and the one thing I think, you asked a question before the start of the podcast, it's similar related. We don't need to go into that, but I think one of the things that happens is that if you don't enjoy these games to a degree, if you only enjoy the trophies, and again, this is only my perspective, but I've mixed with a wide array of trophy hunters, many that, don't play anymore because of this reason, is that if the trophies are the only thing that keep you going, you will burn out, and you'll probably burn out so hard that you'll hate gaming because it will take all enjoyment from you. So I do think it's a huge balance. And I'm still relatively new to this game. I think I've only been doing this for 4 years or something. But each day I would love to play. Sometimes it's not physically possible with timing, but it's something that I really love to do. And it's not because I want to get X Platinum today or number of trophies. It's just because I want to play this game or that game or whatever, get this experience. So I think, and then, that's why I love talking to Mindy or Darrell here. And many of our guests are in the same position, I think, where the trophies are important. And I'm sure you'd agree with this, Darrell, but, the game's important too. You're not going to slog, through a game, or a longer game just for the sake of a, 3 or 4 or 10, 15 trophies.
The trophies are a metagame in itself, so that's what's so addicting. And that's what I find so fascinating talking to other trophy and achievement hunters. It's like, we all have this drive to go and obtain these things. It's almost like the trophies are a fetch quest, and the platinum is the completion to my quest log. And it's like, having these little things to go, and of course, the variety that they provide, where you might have to play a game different than you would have normally, or you might have to be a little smarter with the way you play your game. So yeah, I think that they're so much fun. And when I gave my answer, I don't want it to sound like it's a generic and simple answer, because to me, it is the reason why I play. I love getting trophies and achievements. And if Nintendo would ever come out with anything, I'd probably hunt those too, but it's like, they're fun and they're objectives and they're little boxes that I get to check. And when they're not fun, that's when I'll stop. But they're still fun. So I'm going.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah, still breathing. You might as well keep
There
going. You know what, Mindy? I just thought of something. I've never heard trophies described as the ultimate fetch quest. It's just come into clarity for me. Trophies are the ultimate
There you
JRPG.
go.
They never end. It's the ultimate. That's the
The
attraction.
grind.
Oh! Thank you for the question, Eyeshadow. We finally solved the problem. God, I could have saved millions of dollars with my psychologist there. But look, that's what it is. It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate JRPG. Take that, Final Fantasy 14. This goes forever. I like it. So look, why don't we move on then to what we've been playing this week, and why don't we start with you, Darrell? But just before we do, I know you're gonna. Well, I hope you're going to talk about one game. I know you've talked about it already on a podcast this week, but I'm still very interested to hear about it. I know from what I've read, you're very passionate about this game. It looks like you've got most of the trophies. I think I wouldn't even be to go out on a limb here and say it maybe. Possibly putting words into your mouth here, one of the best games you've played this year, perhaps. But you can let us know here. Can I ask you, how are you finding Siggy, A Fart for Mussolina?
Damn it! I knew you were going to go there. I knew that was the. I pulled up his trophy log and I was like, he's setting it up for CG. I know he is.
Well, I heard him talk about it in a positive light. So
okay, so with Siggy or Siggy or however you actually pronounce it.
Who knows?
My goal was to platinum that game on the podcast with Tricky a few nights ago. Unfortunately, I screwed up my speed run. I got distracted a few times. And so I'm finishing up that one. I already have the Vita plat. This will be the PS4 plat. And so I've been kind of chipping away at that one. I got the Vita plat for Mechabolt, however you pronounce that one. That one was a little flat, even for a rat game. It was like, okay, this is no Hoggy 2. I'm just saying.
It is. It's no. Nothing is.
I started this arena shooter by it's a Sometimes You game. It's called Blood Waves. I don't really.
What do you think of that?
I don't really enjoy it. I said before, every now and again, I just want to turn my brain off and just kill zombies or just do something somewhat mindless and repetitive, but yet kind of cathartic. It's kind of fun. This game, it's got, I don't know if it's the frame rate or if it's the camera position, but it kind of makes me a little nauseated playing it. The hit boxes and the hit responses on the enemies, it's kind of janky. So it's not like fluid and fun to play, but I'll probably put some more time into it on one of these random mornings where I can't sleep, or late nights I can't sleep and yet don't really want to function. There's another game similar to it. I'm not playing it right now, but it's one that I kind of pop in from time to time. I'm looking for it now. It's another arena-based zombie-ish game that it's called Dead Alliance. Dead Alliance is a first-person shooter game. Blood Waves is a third-person. Dead Alliance is a much better game, but the grind is really, really it's there. And so I kind of was like, well, Blood Waves has a shorter platinum estimated time. So I was like, I'll try it out. And it's not great, though.
And you're playing Control. How is it?
Yes, Control is where I'm going with next. And it is fantastic.
Yeah?
I think so.
Better than Siggy?
Slightly better. If one's a 9 and one's a 10, Siggy's the 10, but not Control is really good. Control third person action game. If you either of you guys ever played PsyOps, like for the PlayStation 2 and OG Xbox?
No, but this is Remedy. These guys did Alan Wake, right?
Right. So it's all of the weirdness of Remedy with a really fun, smooth third-person shooter with telekinesis powers, and it's just so cool. Like, I was trying to think, okay, like what can I compare this to?
Oh, so like that Gemini Heroes Reborn game, but good?
Yeah, maybe. I would say this, like if you had a blender, okay, and this blender consisted of the Metroidvania aspects of a Resident Evil game. All right. You had the third person action of the, what is that? Lost Light or First Light, the Infamous game. Not the it was the DLC that came out where you played as I think her name's Fetch.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, anyways, in Infamous, you had like certain types of powers or whatever, and either way, this has some of the, so it controls and feels very similar to that, similar powers as well. But if you put it in a blender with Event Horizon, the movie, and then the show Lost, that's a lot of ingredients, but it's so weird and it's so good and it's so fun to play. Like I've never played anything like it. I've had a really hard time kind of like explaining to people like what I love about it, other than how freaking weird and fun it is.
That's really weird because Alan Wake, it was really simple. You could just call it Alan Wake : we really like Stephen King, and that was the game.
This is Control : we really like weird stuff like Lost, Event Horizon, and Resident Evil. I don't know. It's so fun. I was messaging back and forth with CJ, and I'm like, man, the story is really out there. So you're in this what they call the oldest house, and it's set up like a government agency, a FBI, CIA type thing or whatever. But like you're dealing with interdimensional time travel. This house changes and relocates, and it's really, really big. Like the amount of rooms you go through and the environment changes are absurd, but yet you still feel confined because you're in a small feeling structure, no matter how much it changes. It's got an open world kind of mission structure to it, but with Metroidvania aspects, because you might open 10 doors and then get one or two that the clearance, you don't have that clearance to get them yet. Or you see some things that you could possibly reach if you had said power, and it's so much fun. I really enjoy it. I'm at the end of the game. I believe I haven't tried to spoil it for myself and look anything up yet, but given on where the story's at, I feel like I'm at the climax now. It does have some frame rate issues, like when you get a lot of enemies and destruction on the screen, because you can pick up almost anything in the game with your telekinesis powers and throw it. So, and you have a RPG skill tree when it comes to powering up your character and the different abilities that you have. It's wild. It really is. I can't praise it enough. Like I told CJ when we were messaging out, before the show or in yesterday and stuff, this really does speak to my interest. I don't think it's for everybody because it's weird and the story is out there. It's very sci-fi and it takes itself serious, but yet still feels a little campy, and it's just good. I can't say enough good things about it, and I don't know what else to compare it to other than a buffet of random things.
So. That was impressive. Are you playing it on the Pro or the regular PS4?
I think it would play better on my Pro, but my Pro is confiscated by my oldest son. It's down in our game room, and I've been sectioned away in my office playing this on my Slim, and it chugs, man. Especially later in the game as the enemies get bigger and wilder and crazier and the projectiles start flying. And of course, the more powered up you are, the more stuff you're going to grab and throw and then shoot. And now I can fly, so like, it's wild. It's a really cool game. I like it a lot. Yeah, I was gonna say I think I told you in a message I will platinum this game and then I will turn around and buy it on Xbox One and then 100% it on there because I like it that much.
Yeah, well, I think that is a common thread that it may not run so well on the standard PS4. Maybe also the Pro to a degree. So just be aware. But I think they're patching it or going to patch it in some manner or something as it goes. So I think you're a little bit kind on it. I think this game is perhaps Control : we made something. Do you know what it is? Because I'm not. I think this is a game you really probably have to read all the documents and stuff, don't
Absolutely.
you? And the collectibles as you go. Yeah, because it's not really clear what's going on at all otherwise.
Well, and that's the thing. There's hundreds of these documents, like hundreds. And like sometimes you'll go in a room and you'll find 3 or 4 files. Now, when I said in that blender, you throw in some Resident Evil. Yeah, the Metroidvania need to go get this key to go back to get this room to unlock this thing. That's there. But one of the things that like hardcore Resident Evil fans love, it's the files, because the files in the games build the world. This is that like game, that aspect, but on freaking crack, because they'll drop 4 files in a room and you'll pick it up and you'll read it and it'll be background information on this character or background information on this world event or altered world event, as they call them. And if you don't read those, you will not know what's going on. But again, like I said, not for everybody, but it really does speak to my interest. And with Resident Evil being my favorite franchise, this is textbook, like, and so it's one of those things to where you don't play this game when you're tired. You don't play this game when you're in a hurry. You play this game when you're sitting back, you're ready to get in the atmosphere and soak it up. And I'll tell you this, and I'll leave it alone. I'll stop because I'll talk all night about it. There is a scene, there's a maze you have to go through, right? As you're escalating towards the climax of the game, or at least where I'm at. And there is a song that plays in there and an action sequence that plays to the cadence of this song. And I found myself Doom style, like fighting to the cadence of the song as the maze changed. It was an acid trip and I freaking loved it. It was so fun. And I sat back and just audibly saying, my God, this is so awesome. Like, I would almost wish they would rip that part of the game out and let people demo it, like play that as the demo, because it was just an amalgamation of just such fun things to do. So I liked it, but I'm done. I won't say any more about it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to ask you one more thing about it, because I think you're right. I think this is a game you can't play when you're tired. And I think it's a game that, it's a full price game, listeners. So, if it's a game you're looking at, you're probably going to do some research into it, because as Darrell said, it's very hard to define. It's sort of a mesh of all sorts of things. Just because you like a shooter, I don't think you'll necessarily like this game, or vice versa. It's very, very player dependent. But one of the things that I found, and I imagine, as you say, you get more abilities as you go on, so maybe this becomes less important, but I found very jarring at the start, is that there's no cover option for your character. Do you find that at all, or does that become less important?
It's you can tell, you kind of tell as you're going. Very early in the game, it was apparent that trying to take cover is the opposite of what they want you to do. They want you moving, and as you unlock more abilities, that movement becomes much more fluid and more fun. And you'll find later in the game, like, you'll start to try to take cover and it'll actually hurt you more, because you'll get flanked and then they'll start throwing things at you. I found that I was the least successful trying to take cover and play this more tactfully than I was just running, gunning, flying, and throwing whatever I could pick up at the enemies. So it's definitely a game design choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mean to sound critical of it, listeners. I've only played a couple of hours, so I'm definitely, it's definitely not what I expected, or I suppose what I would normally play. And I think coming off like The Division and trying to hide behind everything, it's just a mind. Yeah. They're two massively different games. But look, a massive coup for Sony. And it's unfortunate that Microsoft didn't tie this one up somehow, because this would have been another strong title for them. But anyway,
that would have been to land as exclusive.
Yeah, it is what it is. So, Mindy, why don't we throw across to you? What have you been up to this week?
Oh, am I on this podcast too?
Oh, you're back. Welcome. You see how she treats me, listeners? It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable.
I know, I'm so unfair.
She's gone to get the whip now.
No, that's Push2Plat After Dark, darling.
Ooh. Oh, excellent.
That's a Patreon exclusive.
Patreon. That's why. That's the answer. If you want to build your Patreon, that's what you need. I like it. Okay, sorry, Mindy. We'll stop being silly.
What have I been playing this week? I said last week I was going to play Legend of the Skyfish, and I did. It's cute. It's a little, it's trying to tap into your love for older Zelda games. It is both short and long. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, it feels longer than it is, but at the same time, it's too short for the story it's telling.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It's weird, but it's it's cute. The main gameplay mechanic is your weapon is a fishing pole, so you use it like a hook shot, like you would a hook shot in Zelda.
Is it a game you would need a guide for, or is it sort of just play?
You might want one just to tell you where all the treasure chests are. Because while there's a trophy for getting half of the treasure chest, and the game will kind of let you know if you're in a stage of the treasure chest. For one, if you just look at the little island, you could see a treasure chest like on the island, and that'll clue you into, oh, there's a treasure in this level. But also, if you're close enough to it, your little companion, you're not Navi, let's say, even though it's totally Navi, will put up a little dialogue bubble with a picture of the treasure chest on it, so you know you're in the immediate vicinity of it. But sometimes it's easier to just, have a little guide up to show you exactly where they are. But generally speaking, no, you don't need a guide for it.
And it's a game you have to finish, right? Is that correct? Or
yes, there are 3 worlds of I think 15 levels in each, and you have to play all of them. But the levels are very, very, very short. Like the levels are, 3 or 4 screens each. They're fairly short. Yeah. And what else? I got that multiplayer trophy in The Last of Us. The servers have shut down, so moment of silence for the Naughty Dog servers because they're gone.
Was there a bit of tension involved there? I thought maybe you were right down on the line.
Well,
there.
it's more that I thought they were shutting down in the middle of this month, not the beginning. So one day I realized, oh, I have to get this today. Or I will never be able to platinum this game. But it still took me like 2 hours to get it because I just kept getting on. I still maintain that this trophy is glitchy. And looking at comments on various trophy guides, I'm not alone in thinking this. It seems like you have to do this several times for it to decide to pop. But there was a span where I just kept getting on losing teams. I'm not helping, of course, because it's been several years since I've played this.
Well, you're not there to help. You're there to get a free trophy. They're supposed to do all the work.
Yeah, well, I tried to help.
That's the arrangement.
But what I would either get is I would be on a team that's just gets absolutely trashed because there's just too many good, or I get in a group of really good players, but we're so evenly matched that it really is kind of a death match, and we would always squeak out a loss.
Yeah.
It would be like, we'd each be down to our last player. And the other team would win. But finally I got the trophy. So that made me very happy.
You know what I always think when these sort of things happen? I imagine because they must see like a spike in the people playing right up at the end there, the last day or two. And so Naughty Dog there, they must just all be sitting around, looking at the server and just sort of having a chuckle and a bit of a laugh over their wine and, thinking, oh, look at these trophy hunters. And then they're just there with their finger on the button and they're just like, he's about to disconnect. Server's gone. It would be a great power trip for them, wouldn't it?
At least they were nice enough to give some warning. There was that game. Oh, what was it called? Kitty Powers Matchmaker.
Yes.
There are only 35 people who have earned the platinum. Myself is included in this. Where they shut off the servers, 0 warning. The servers, and there's I think 2 trophies that the servers need to be on because you need to be able to access your friends list, your PSN friends list. And yes. they randomly got shut off, and the game was not out that long. I would say the server was up for about 9 months, maybe a year. And then just literally one day it was on and the next day it was not, with 0 warning.
What about this Memories Retold? What did you think? I've been very eager to hear your opinion on this.
So that was the big one I played this week. I was going to bring up the fact that I've been delving into more of my PS3 backlog. Like I've been working on the online stuff for Little Big Planet 1 and 2.
There is no reaction from me here.
I know I'm 9 months late, but I did it. So technically I'm making some headway on my New Year's resolution. Shut up. So
do you know how little interest I know you have in these games now? Because earlier this week you messaged to me and said, have you ever noticed that there's a different blue color between the PS4, PS3 and Vita on profiles when they list the trophy lists?
Well, there is.
And I thought there is, but I mean, to notice that and to be, it just shows how disinterested you are overall in the game, doesn't it? I'm now looking for discrepancies in the blue. But look, you're right. It's great.
No.
You wouldn't want to be colorblind.
No, in fairness, I linked, or CJ was like, I messaged him and I said, hey, I'm actually playing my PS3. And he said, yeah, right, I'll believe it when I see it. So I linked him to my trophy log.
Oh, that's right.
And he said, it said like The Last of Us. He goes, no, you're playing the PS4 version. I said, no, look at the look at the little icon on the list. It says PS3.
Yeah.
Boom. And then I said, and you can tell because, and it's more obvious with the, like if you're looking at PS4 and Vita together, but they are different shades of blue. PS4 is a darker blue, and PS3 is a kind of a mid-range, and Vita is actually fairly light.
Yeah, look. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
It's just more obvious when you get them next to each other.
It really is. I'm looking at it, and look, you know, that's a great way to spend your time. Like, I mean, you could play Control if you wanted, or you know, Wreckfest, or whatever the new release, or you could study the blue,
or record a podcast.
Well, is that what's happening now? I don't even know anymore. Yeah. Now, can we go to this Memories Retold? Because this is, I'm very, very interested in what you think.
I really liked it. I did. It's a World War I narrative. Sorry, I was going to say World War II. That's not right. World War I. I like it because, well, first of all, Elijah Wood is in it, which kind of surprised me. Like, this had a really, really high budget, and it was actually co-developed by Aardman, which are the Wallace and Gromit guys. You know, Wallace Gromit and Chicken Run and those kind of stop motion movies. And so the whole thing is done like a painting. So it's like this kind of moving oil paintings. And I will say it does take a little bit to get used to. I would say for the first hour, it hurt my eyes a bit. Not consistently, but if I was in like one area for too long, it kind of hurt my eyes because my eyes were trying to adjust to what this was. But then I got used to it, and it was fine. It reminded me there's this movie that does pretty much the same thing, and it's called Loving Vincent, where it's a movie about Vincent van Gogh, and it's done in the style of his paintings.
Yeah, that's excellent, that movie. Yeah.
Is it? It's on my list on Hulu. I haven't watched it yet.
Yes, it is. It's really, yes. It's all hand drawn as well. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So it's same kind of idea. They did this painting style, and it's a story about these two soldiers on opposite sides of the war. And what I like about this is neither of them are soldiers. Like, they're both in the service, but neither of them are actually soldiers. Like, one of them is a Canadian photographer who basically joined to impress this girl, but also to just kind of do something with his life. He's like the personal war photographer of like this major. And then the other guy is an what is he? He's like an electrician. And he joined up because his son is a soldier, and his son's unit went missing. So he joined up to learn what happened to his son. And the story of the game is that, and they're on opposite sides. So the electrician is a German, and the photographer is Canadian. And at some point early in the game, you knew this was going to happen. They meet up. There's a I don't remember what battle it was. There was a battle, and there was an explosion that blew out the ground, and so they both got stuck in this like bunker area for a couple of weeks together. So it's one of those, you know, finding moments of humanity in the horrid shit that surrounds you. You know what I mean?
There's a lovely moment in that too, or a section where he ends up behind enemy lines, and they you know, without going into it to spoil the story, he sort of reconnects in a way with the German, well, not directly, but with the family and stuff like that. And it is. It's there's some very beautiful moments in that game. Some very sad moments too, I think. But
there is, yeah. There's some really sad stuff. I think there's a ton of endings in this game too. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 endings, and I think only about 3 of them are unique. I think the other 4 are just they're minor variations on a theme, and should not, you know, there shouldn't be trophies involved with it. That having been said, for a trophy standpoint, there is a really, really nasty glitch that can hit you with this game with the trophies. And it's to do with a certain collectible in the first part of the game. And there is chapter select, so you know you can go back and get whatever you're missing. However, in the first part of the game, there's one collectible that can spawn, and then you'll see it, but you're being blocked by a person because you have to approach the person and do a little cutscene, and then it goes back, and you can, you know, the person moves. But the person moves, and the collectible's not there anymore. And no matter how often you restart the chapter, the collectible will not reappear. I had to uninstall, or I had to delete my save file, restart the entire game. Which, granted, it wasn't too bad because it was only about an hour and a half in, so it wasn't that bad. But just keep an eye out for that one. Back up your saves every now and then, because that's a really nasty glitch to get, especially because there is a trophy for getting every collectible in the game, and you don't want to glitch it out super early on.
That was a game that I thought the trophy list was a little unfortunate, perhaps, in that I would have liked a lot less of that. I thought it maybe got in the way. I don't know if you felt that way, but I mean, admittedly, I didn't go for the plat. But
there are a lot of trophies. There are 51 trophies in this game,
and a lot of missable trophies.
Almost all of them are missable, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is. There's a really good trophy guide for it on PlayStation Trophies, and what I like about it is that it's laid out. Most of the trophy guides are laid out in the order you would see it on PSN, the order that you'd see the trophy list. On the site, and generally I don't like it, especially as a guide team member who has to load all this onto the main site. They reordered it so the trophies were in the order that you would be able to get them. So it's very easy to, play the game, just keep an eye on, oh, what do I need to look for next? Okay, and then just keep playing. I didn't have to do so much back and forth that way.
Yeah, it's good. I know we're dwelling on this game a bit, listeners, but I really think, and it sounds like Mindy does as well, that this is it's a game well worth your time. Obviously, it's a slower paced game, so you have to go in with that in mind. But
yeah, that is another thing. It does have some pacing issues. It is really slow to start, like really slow to start. But I do recommend it.
Yeah, that's good. And anything else you'd like to throw out this week?
Well, I mean, you crapped all over my PS3 progress, so
would you like another go at that?
No, because it wouldn't be honest.
No, we're all very impressed with your PS3.
I did play earlier today. I played Hymno, which is the rat game for this week.
Is that any good?
Yeah.
So that's a yes. Screaming endorsement.
I don't know. It's not terrible. It's not well explained. The game mechanics are not well explained. So all you really need to know about it is it's a platformer. The levels are randomly generated. There's permadeath sometimes. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, and the whole mechanic is it's everything's randomized. It's dark, so you either have to collect little fairies or whatever to light your way, or light torches or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Like, there are these green things that you can pick up that I never figured out what they were for. And then there's random things that make you dash really far, but I don't know why you would want to do that because of the way all of these levels are constructed. It just doesn't help you, or it just sends you to your death. It just sends you out over the water to die. It's kind of confusing what this game is, but it works, so I guess I can give it that.
Listeners, I think we have another contender here for the Bouncy Bullets Award by the sound of it. So it sort of has that feel to it, doesn't it?
I don't know. I didn't play Bouncy Bullets. But I will say, because the game doesn't actually tell you this, your goal is to find a doorway with little, like, I guess lightning bolts or something in it. You want to find that door and go through it. Like, that's the goal of the game.
Okay.
It never actually tells you this. There's three buttons for you to teleport, which never seems to work. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it just doesn't work, or if they did a really bad job explaining things, or what.
Wow. Well, you know what, Darrell? I did not think I would see a game more abstract than Control this week, but I was proven wrong. We should both get onto this because, there's obviously something there. I don't know what, but there's something. Yeah. Okay. Can I just ask one question though, Mindy? Because you said it's randomly generated. So a video guide couldn't really help you then, could it? Here, if it's or is there missables within?
No, it can't.
Okay, no, it can't. Yeah.
And it's possible, because this happened to me a couple times, it's possible to get a randomly generated level you can't progress in. And that's a problem, because there's trophies, like there's a trophy for reaching District 6, which is like, it basically, it means level 6. It means go through 6 of those doors I just mentioned. But you have to do that in a single run. And so it's just luck of the draw that you get and generally you're fine. There were 2 instances where I got this randomly generated thing, and I was boxed in. I couldn't go anywhere. So I was like, "Well, that's not fun."
No, I'll just put that on the bottom of the list, I think, for now. Yeah. Well, you've actually been pretty busy this week. Well done. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thank you.
And good stuff as well. So, look, listeners, I'm just going to throw out really quickly the Pantsu Hunter. I know Mindy talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and look, I enjoyed it. It's a lovely little sometimes something new. Is that right? A lovely little game to play, and it actually had a lot more sort of substance than I expected, particularly the endings. The endings, I forget, four girls, four endings, and quite a lot of reading there as well in that section. So look, it's great, and there is a fantastic guide. I actually, Mindy, I didn't realize how short some of the endings would be. I know you sort of said they were short, but some of them are like, they're very contained. So
most of the endings are just game over screens.
Yeah, very, very. And I mean, you mentioned that there is no skip, but I found that even there's no skip, but just the faster text is enough, really, because they are so short. I think it was holding the triangle button. Yeah, it was good. And I mean, look, I'm going to be fully honest. There's no way I would have figured out some of the endings without the guide. I got a little stuck in one of them too. I'm not sure what happened there. I was convinced the game was glitched, but I think I was the glitch, not the game at that point. But yeah, anyway. But look, it's fine, and that is what it is. It's a double stack as well, so that would be a lot quicker the second time if you do it. I'm going to throw out this one only because it hasn't got much publicity anywhere, and it's called Dead or School. So I think it was last week I mentioned that I was intrigued by this game, but we weren't sure if it was in English or Japanese. It was confirmed English for the Switch, but there was belief for the PS4 one that there was not going to be multi-language, but I can assure you there is English in it. And it's about 3,000 yen, which is really a bargain for this game. I think it's a pseudo-visual novel and hack and slash, so it has a lot of cutscenes in it, a lot of story, but the hack and slash stuff is really cool. You have 3 weapons: a sword, a machine gun, and a rocket launcher that you can move between. There's a leveling up system, and quite an elaborate leveling up system. It plays like a Metroidvania. I know, isn't that shocking? So you are going. The map is confusing. The problem with the map is you can't see it at all times. You can only see it at save points. So I'm not sure. Maybe that's an element of Metroidvanias that I haven't yet to discover or understand. But that does make it a little frustrating. But there are quite a lot of save points around the place. So if you do sort of get lost, and it's not too massive. And the premise is wonderfully Japanesey. There's been a nuclear attack of some form, and you've been living for generations under the ground, and you're sort of you're one of the younger people, and it's time to. You feel the urge to go up above ground, and of course, the school is seen as like the mecca, if you like, the holy place or whatever. So your mission is literally to die or get to the school, and you meet these characters along the way. So look, I really like this game. I don't think it's going to be hugely difficult. Maybe around 15 hours or so. And if you're open to playing these sort of Eastern games, we talked a lot about JRPGs last week, and just this general randomness that comes up. I would definitely recommend this game because there is a lot of randomness, and also for the price. I don't know what it costs to import physically, but most of these games are very expensive. So this one coming in at 3,000 yen, which if you do your conversions is not huge. It's probably like a quarter priced or a third price game compared to Western games. It's a good deal. So I would put that there. I'm not going to touch Control because we've talked about that. Perhaps the only other 2 I'll touch on very quickly was the surprise release. I don't know if either of you are interested in this series of the Plants vs. Zombies Batter for Neighborville.
I did see it pop up.
Have you ever played any of these? Or
yeah, I played the first 2 pretty decent amount with my son. So they're pretty good games.
And you enjoyed them?
Oh, absolutely.
They are good. Yeah. I mean, they're games that have been riddled with microtransactions in the past for cosmetic items and stuff like that. It's doing a funny thing. It just appeared out of nowhere on the store, although some listeners might know that I think it was 2 months ago, they released a closed beta or a private beta on the phone for a phone version of this game. So I don't think anyone expected it to come to the console so quickly. And they're doing it like a 4-week launch window. So if you buy now, each week they're adding new sections, or they're there. You can see them just players can't go into them, so they're opening new sections, so that I think in October, in 4 weeks from now, the whole game will be available. And what you buy in for now, you don't have to buy in anymore later on. So it does look like the microtransactions are not there, but then, of course, they may come in 4 weeks' time, anyway, like the other games have. But look, it's a much bigger game than 2. I thought 2 was fantastic. It's obviously the same same general gameplay idea. But look, if you haven't played one of these games, I think this might be the point to jump in on. It does have a, you look at this game and you go, oh, it's like a kiddies game, but it has a brutal community because these people are diehards. I don't know if you found this, Darrell, but some of them, they're very, very good at this. And, you can, if you're going player versus player, you can really expect a battle here. It's sort of like Call of Duty style playing, but with plants and zombies. There's some serious players.
I noticed it on the store this morning. I haven't picked it up yet, but I know that when my son sees it, my oldest, he's going to love it because that was kind of what I introduced him into shooters with. I didn't want him starting with a Call of Duty like most kids his age, so I let him start with Plants vs Zombies, and he got really good at it. And the split screen, the co-op missions that they had in there were pretty good as well. So yeah, we'll definitely be picking that one up.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think there's any rush. I mean, if you're someone that likes to collect everything, perhaps you jump in, because I think they're doing a thing where they'll give you 3 or 4 gifts a week that'll only be available for the first 4 weeks and expire at the end of each week. But, again, these are all cosmetic things, so they don't affect the game. And also it's a little bit limiting. I mean, you can do a little bit in there at the moment, but obviously each week with more areas opening, it's going to become, a more enjoyable game. So, you decide. But look, I don't know what it's on the American store, but it's quite reasonable, a half-price game in Australia. So for what will definitely be a massive game, it's not a bad purchase. And then, look, I'll just throw Wreckfest out, but we talked it last week. It's great. I'm really enjoying it. If you're into arcade car racing games, this is the one. There are plenty of tracks, plenty of content, and they did a weird patch that basically eliminated the rubber banding for some reason. So if you want to play on easy, it's incredibly easy now. So that's that's something to think about. But I got a question in this morning about this game, and I don't want to talk about the story at all because it would spoil it. But I know you're both anticipating this game, and it came in from Zador VP this morning, and he obviously knows my background of playing games for 5 minutes and moving on, and he just mentions that the different modes and things like that in this game, the creators cut, and I also know there's a movie mode. I'm not exactly sure what that is. And then, of course, there's the play with other people mode and stuff. And he's like, basically asking, had I had enough of the game, or would I play any of the other modes? So I'm not sure, sir, if you're playing it. You can let me know what you think if you are. But I thought I'd talk in really general terms because I don't think either of you have started this game yet, The Man of Medan.
I've got it sitting right here beside me, unopened.
Yeah, good. So I don't want to talk about the story at all because it's something you've got to experience for yourself, I think. I think my comments only draw to, I mean, if you didn't like Until Dawn, obviously you're not going to like this game. It's the same sort of idea. For me personally, I found there are an incredible number of long shots in this. So where you're down the end of the corridor and you're controlling the character walking to you, or vice versa, they're walking away from you. So they make good use of the long shot, which is, I don't know, it could be a little bit much for me. Yeah, but I mean, I know it's a horror trope as well, so it's okay. One of the things that I thought the pacing was good. It's like a horror movie. It starts off slow. There are a few bits in the middle or whatever else, but the ending, it's good. It is frenetic to a degree. One of the things that I was thinking about, and because I know we talked about PS5 a few weeks ago and stuff, is that there are a lot of little load screens in this. And I was thinking towards the end, wouldn't it have been amazing if this game could have been done in one take? Which, obviously that's not possible with the current systems at this point, but it is a little jarring. I know Assassin's Creed, by and large in one take, but not completely. There were obviously loading parts in that as well, but it did detract a little bit for me in probably the last hour. You get some quite tense moments, and then it cuts to a black screen and loads for a little bit. But look, I suppose I'm being particularly picky with the game. It's hard to talk about the game because I know you both haven't played it, and I don't want to say anything else. But look, I'm definitely not running it down. It's great. I mean, it's not long. 3 to 4 hours, I think, maybe less if you kill everyone off it earlier. I don't know, but it's definitely worth playing. The hesitation I have, sir, in answering your question is, will I go back to it? I don't think I'm going to go back to it at the moment. I think these games for me are like a one-play game. I have my story. I know what happened. I know there are many variations possible, but I think I like what happened at this point for me. So I think once is enough, and then maybe in a month or two I'll go back and play it a different way. I think my problem is, because I haven't looked at the guide, obviously, is that I would play it again and make similar choices and get the same result. So I'm not sure that another playthrough is warranted for me. But, again, for the price and for what it is, it's definitely worth playing. It has some great jump scares as well. And, not to invoke the Blair Witch here, but probably one of the scariest things in this game for me is because of these long shots is that the other characters will sort of just be where you need to be. And you'll come around a corner and down in the distance, you'll see them like one person standing right at the door, like right up against it, looking at it. But they're right in the corner. And as you come around, you sort of see it out of the corner of your eye. And that actually, I found that kind of scary, maybe the scariest part of the game, because I wasn't sure if it was a character or what it was. And of course, that's reminiscent of the Blair Witch art, where it happens in the house. But, look, I don't know. I'm going to be very interested. I know a lot of people have been shitting on that game. It is what it is. And just before we move on, Darrell, with that game, you'll be interested to know when you finish it, it shows you a little trailer for the next one. I forget what it's called, but they're taking this idea from your Resident Evil 7 with the creepy nursery rhyme, Go Tell Aunt Rhody, and they've now applied it to Scarborough Fair. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that song, but they've done a fantastic creepy version of Scarborough Fair. That'll obviously be the theme tune for that next one. So look, something to look out for.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it is.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, and look, it's a great, it's the opposite to Control. Like I've been pretty tired this week with work, and it's the perfect game to play when you're tired because it's not too much involvement. I mean, plenty of quick time events, and I'm not sure if I'm getting older or the quick time events are getting faster. But for I think it's possibly both because and it doesn't help you listeners. If you're reaching for a drink at the time the quick time event comes up, either you have to make a decision. Usually not in favor of the quick time event.
It's like, do I grab my drink or do I let my character die? Oh,
that's
no.
right.
What are we going to do?
Well, I tell you what, like, as I said, we can't talk about there's a few decisions you make towards the end that I think, obviously they're set up for you to choose a certain thing that if you understood it the second time, you would probably choose differently. But anyway, that's as much of that as I will say, so we don't ruin it. So let's go into some new releases this week. And Mindy, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So this week we got a new point and click, Apocalypsis. Apocalypsis is a point and click adventure in the vein of Samorost and Machinarium, where all puzzles have a hidden meaning. With a unique art style inspired by 15th century engravings, it tells a story about heartbreak, redemption, and quite literally the end of the world. Not much. It's a point and click with a really interesting art style.
Oh, that's all.
I'll probably write a guide for this.
And it does have a plat, that game as well.
Yes, it does. So, I do know that.
If that does concern you. Yeah. It is a very interesting art style. So,
it's another PC port. So this actually came out, I want to say last year on PC. And it looks like, and there was one DLC episode. It looks like they've put that in with the base game. But it's the art style is like oh gosh, I keep wanting to say Shroud of Turin. That's so far away from what I want to say. The meme, the Bayou Tapestry. So it's that kind of art style.
Oh, it could be one to look out for. Yeah. Do you have another one you want to throw out, or?
I do have a quick one. It's called Flowers Are Dead.
Yes.
And I'm pulling this one off of the PlayStation YouTube description of it. Flowers Are Dead is a first-person story-based game. Play as Evelyn, face your tribulations, delve deep into your mind, and trace down the one that got away and live through your memories. So very generic description of what I assume is a walking sim. From what I can tell from this video, is primarily a walking sim. I want to point out this game is out right now. It does not have a platinum, and it's $20. I don't think was Edith Finch $20 at launch?
Edith Finch was quite expensive at launch. Yes.
Was it?
It may have been more than 20, to be honest with you. But I don't think there's probably a comparison between these two games in quality, perhaps.
No, this looks like a fairly generic. I hope I'm wrong, because I do enjoy good, meaty kind of narrative walking sims. But this, I watched the trailers for this. I don't get that vibe from it. I get fairly generic, just walk and find notes, walking sims. Don't read the YouTube comments for these. Like, oh, people are not being nice to this. They're saying things like, flowers are dead and so is this game.
Oh, well, maybe wait for a price drop on this one then, listeners, I think.
Yeah, price drop.
Yeah, cool. And Darrell, have you got something you can throw out for us? A discovery.
Yeah, I picked up this game called Injection Pi 23. No name, no number. That is the complete time.
I actually want to hear about this. Have you actually started playing it?
No, I picked it up this morning before work. I saw it on the store, and it looks like a Silent Hill clone.
Because the list has been out for a while.
And I did some reading on it, and apparently it's going to be a somewhat difficult platinum. It looks like you got to do multiple playthroughs. You have some decision trophies. It's very reminiscent of the early Silent Hill games. And I was reading on here, it looks like you got to do at least one, maybe two nightmare mode runs. And it's apparently if you use chapter select, it doesn't save your progress. So you kind of have to create a save. Once you beat the game in your first playthrough, then you can go and use chapter select to do different decisions through missions. But it looks pretty neat, man. It looks really, really reminiscent of, like I said, old Silent Hill stuff. I watched a couple quick little clips from the game, and I don't know. It's right up my alley and my the kind of games that I enjoy. Will I finish it? Will I platinum it? Probably not. I've kind of, a lot of these games lately I've picked up, played through once and be like, okay, I'll get back to that one day, but with time and, being an adult and stuff. So, but it looks pretty neat. I'm very excited about it.
What's your tolerance for jankiness in games? Are you expecting some in this?
Oh, absolutely. This has got jank written all over it. I think that's actually, they spelled it wrong. It's supposed to be injunction, not injection.
Yes.
Yeah. I have a high tolerance when it feels like it makes sense. So before we were recording, we're talking about Daily Premonition. That game had some charming jank to it. Shadows of the Damned had some. It was a fun game, but it was a little janky at times as well. And Alone in the Dark, the PlayStation 3 version, was janky, and so sometimes it works. Whether it be in the controls or in the combat. Old Silent Hill games were kind of notorious for that. So sometimes it works and it's almost charming. Sometimes it just makes the game broken and more hard, and then you're just like, you know what, I'm done.
No, I can understand that. Yeah. Well, you'll have to let us know about that, because I think there's a few of us that have been waiting to hear about that. And I think, Mindy, it's actually a double stack. So it's possible that the NA version has only just come out recently, and maybe the EU. I'm not sure which way, but there is two stacks of that game.
Yeah, I do see now. There's one list and someone has two people have the platinum. And there's another stack on something, and no one.
No, I don't know what that is then. Yeah.
No one's earned any trophies for it yet.
Yeah. Well, let us know, Darrell, or listeners, if you jump into that one. So look, I don't know. I'm just going to obviously throw out another racing game. NASCAR Heat 4 is coming out. If you've played any of NASCAR Heat 2, 3, or before as it comes, they're basically exactly the same game. The trophy list is always the same. I think this time it doesn't have the top ratings on the tracks as the I think 3 did not either. So other than that, though, it's the same game. The reason I threw this game out, it's not amazing in its graphics or its gameplay. I mean, it has an obnoxiously long requirement to play the career like 10 times or something, for trophies and stuff. So it's not even a good trophy game. But where this game excels is if you have a racing wheel. This is it is one of the best, if not the best, on PlayStation games that I've played for force feedback racing wheels. So on this game, you could really feel. And again, I've talked to a few people, so it maybe you do have to modify the setup a little bit to get the feeling right within the game. But it is worth playing around with, because you really feel in the wheel when you hit the grooves on the track. The wheel really whips out of your hand, much more so than any racing game I've played before. Obviously, the tracks are banked, so that that sort of makes sense to a degree as well. But if you do have a racing wheel or a setup like that, I would definitely recommend it. If you don't, I don't know that there's much in it for you. It's a bit of a difficult game to play on controller just because of the nature of a NASCAR track, I suppose, potentially boring on a controller too, I suppose. But, if you do, it's great. Look, there are online trophies for this, but I would recommend boosting them because this game has an unbelievably niche following, I suppose you could say. If you get online, there are leagues, there's rankings, that are done all off game in different societies. You will have a really tough race with the locals there because there are some phenomenal racing players in that game that have no interest in you boosting for trophies at all, I'm sure. But, aside from that, it's great. Look, Iceborne, the Monster Hunter expansion, which is really just a new game, is out today. Did you see this, Darrell? Another 500-hour plat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's funny because I picked my wife dropped my kids off to me at work today. She works nights, and so on the way home, my son's like, "Daddy, can we play some more Monster Hunter today?" Because he played it. They were out of school because of the hurricane, and the weather was fine over here. So like he's got to stay home from school and played Monster Hunter all day long. I wanted to ask you guys. Sorry, you mentioned earlier that you're a NASCAR Heat fan.
Yes.
Have you ever been to a NASCAR event before?
I have not. I've been to America a handful of times, but I've never been to one. No, I would love to. I think the sheer redneckedness of the event would just. Oh no, you're wrong. I would love the sheer redneckedness. Is that a word? Redneckedness of the event. Yeah,
it is now.
And the sound as well.
Yeah, it's crazy because oh my gosh, it's so loud. It sounds so cool. But yeah, I went to a NASCAR event a few years back, and I live in the South, so I was like, okay, these are my people, right? Believe it or not, it's not as beer drinking, mullet wearing as you would expect. Okay. It was a very, very college, a lot of college students at the NASCAR event. I'm saying a lot of American flags and cowboy boots, and it was fun. It was not what I expected, but it was fun.
You're telling me that NASCAR has been gentrified?
Yes.
I like it. Wow, wouldn't that shock some people? Yeah. No, it is a life goal of mine. Yeah. I think I would not fit in at all there, but I would love to do it. I think it would be great. And I do. Man. It's actually my preferred motorsport, actually. I've never really got into F1. Like, I watch it a bit, but I really do like NASCAR. The skill is amazing. I mean, the speed. And anyway, we don't want to get into the distance they're driving, but we don't want to get into that. But I believe I didn't know, but I heard, I'm getting on a real sidetrack here. I heard that apparently the rules are in flux from Dylan on his podcast, Platcast, in this week's episode. So they obviously know more about it than I do. Yeah, I didn't know that. So anyway, you learn something every day. So fascinating. We're way off topic now, listeners. So look, why don't we shuffle across? I mean, what is topic anyway? I mean, this is it's a free flowing episode. I started off relaxed, and that's where we're at this point in time. So we sort of thought for a topic today, we tackle the long and the short of it. So how do we sort of balance games? We have this influx of short games coming in. More now than ever before. We also have a massive amount of long games coming in. There's games in the middle, indie, AAA. There's all this stuff, and I'm sure both of you would agree. There's just so much stuff you want to play, but you don't have time. So how do you make choices? How do you make choices on what you play? How do you balance out your time? How do you do it? Okay, so why don't we start with you, Mindy?
Yeah, I don't. I play stuff I want to play. Generally, it just happens that these mega long games are not things that I want to play. We talked about this last week with the JRPGs. Like, I really don't want to play some 600-hour thing. I don't want to play a White Knight Chronicles or probably even a Star Ocean. I played those on PS2. I'm kind of done. But at the same time, I don't want to. There are people who play just like the rat spam or the stuff. If you can't get a platinum in under an hour, they're not going to play it. I like to use it to break up. I like to use short games to kind of break up I shouldn't say monotony, but to keep the longer games from getting monotonous, to feel a sense of, I guess, trophy achievement, really. Because you get to these points and get, especially something I'm working on, like something long I'm working on, like Red Dead Redemption 2, right? I'm in this stretch where I'm making progress towards the last trophies I need. But because there's a lot of stuff that goes into those trophies, you don't pop anything for days, really. So I'll kind of jump over and unlock some stuff on a short game just to be like, I've done something. But it's awkward too because it's not like you can really balance a couple of long games at once because then I think you lose the thread of the narrative. Yeah, because Daryl, I think you're playing. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're playing Monster Hunter, right? And like that's your game that you're working on, but then you're playing all this other short stuff, right?
Yep, that would be the big one.
Yeah.
So and I do that, like, it's very similar to what you said. I'll just kind of tie right in with that. I try to throw in a bunch of short games for the progression, to check my boxes, to get my fix, if you will. And then, like you said, I've got a big game going. And I used to have standards. I joke all the time. I used to have I used to try really hard not to start too many big games, because or too many games that mentally you had to be involved in, because what happens is I start something that's like, I need to pay attention to the story, or I need to pay, the controls are very, very particular. And then you don't play it for a few weeks and then you jump back in. You're like, oh, where was I at? What was I doing? I need to start over. And then typically I just don't start back over. So what I like to do personally is I like to have the long game I'm playing, and I try to decide on those based on how that works for my family. Now I know that might sound kind of weird, but I've got three young ones, three little ones, and a wife who's not a gamer. So for me, my long game right now is Monster Hunter, because that's something I can play with my kids, and that's something that they enjoy. And we can get on a 45-minute long hunt, for a dinosaur or whatever, what have you. And at the end of it, we bag him and we're done, and that might be all the game we played together, one evening. But like, hey, I did something with them. We chipped away at this mountain of a game that I'll probably never finish. And it was great for everybody. But then with a busy work schedule and, a busy home life, I got to get my trophies. So that's where I tend to bust out my rat games. That's where I try to throw in my spam, my trophy trash. And to get, I don't just do it for the trophies, but I tend to choose those games for the quick and easy in and out experiences. And I like to play a variety of things. I don't like to just play the same stuff over and over. And a lot of these games give you the opportunity to try something that, you otherwise might not play, at least for me. And then I like to try to pick something in the middle. And I use Control as an example because that one currently is my main squeeze. I like something that's going to be in the 10 to 30 hour range that I can chip away in my own time, and I typically choose, some sort of third person action or third person horror game for that. And I love when they have a well paced out trophy list. And I feel like Control has the preferred trophy list. It just, every couple hours I've popped a few trophies. I'm getting stuff for missions. I'm getting stuff for abilities. I'm getting stuff for kills and things like that, and collectibles. So it seems like the meta is, working into the pacing of the actual game itself. So I try to find something that fits life. That's kind of how I pick my long and shorts.
Yeah. Okay. So look, I've got some questions for you both here, because I think that's a general overview. Most people, they can relate to that, I think, and understand. So let's take longer games for a second. So, and playing more than one at a time, which you're both sort of alluding to. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Monster Hunter is not really a narrative-driven game, is it? Like, that's not the reason you're playing that game.
No, for me, Monster Hunter is a game that my son, myself, and typically my son's best friend, who lives a state over, we'll all just kind of party up. The boys will hang out and talk, and I'll sit there and just kind of hang out with them and play. And there's no real narrative thread that I've picked up on. For that game, it's more so the experience, get in the party and hunt down the animal and take it out.
Yeah. So a game like that, that's excellent to drop in and out of, because you sort of you remember where you're at. You don't have to keep a narrative thread in your head. So what I want to sort of, and I'm going to ask Mindy as well here, but I see on your list you started Mafia 3, a very narrative heavy game. Now, do you
Yes.
feel, because you're similar to me, see, Mindy's slightly different, and we're going to ask her about this in a moment, but you're similar to me. So you've started that game, you've played it for a week by the look, or a week between trophies or something like this. Now, the longer you get from that game, the harder it is to remember what's going on and stuff like that. So do you like reach a point where, like, I don't know, because we haven't talked about this, maybe you've given up on that game already, but do you find that if you leave it too long now, you're just going to be out of that loop to continue, or does that not bother you? You'll just pick it up?
Absolutely. And it bothers me, and it's one of those things where I don't like to do it. But one morning I woke up and I was like, man, I've got 2 or 3 hours before I got to be at work. Everyone's asleep. I want to play something. And that was the game that I chose. And, I started playing it and I didn't have any real expectations of it. I played some of the older Mafia games and I was like, okay, a Grand Theft Auto clone that's not as long. I'll try it out. And I got into it and the voice acting was great and the story's really good. And I really enjoyed it. And then Control came out. So what's going to happen is, and this is where I've got several examples of this too. It's like, I'm not going to be able to go back to Mafia immediately after playing Control. They're two different types of games, but one plays better than the other. And one of the problems I have with starting medium to bigger games like that is if you start one that's mediocre to okay, and then you start one that's great, going back to the mediocre one, for me, it's hard on a gameplay perspective because it doesn't play as good. It's not as fun. So now I'm playing a longer game, a 30-hour experience or what have you, and it doesn't play like the one I just finished. So I'll bounce.
Yeah. No, I can understand.
And I put Mafia 3 at risk of that with a great story and good voice acting, but I don't know that I'll return to it for a while. I know you're not a fan of Horizon Zero Dawn.
No. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. But see, I really enjoyed that game and I really enjoyed the way it played. And I started Quantum Break, Remedy's last game, right after I platinumed Horizon Zero Dawn. And I didn't think it played near as good. And so I played for a couple hours and bounced. Quantum Break suffered a loss just because I didn't think it controlled as good.
Yeah, that can happen. So Mindy, I want to ask you now, like, with the exception of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is a massive game, and as you say, you're chipping away at it, you tend to only play, I want to say one, but maybe like 1 or 2 games at a time, don't you? You don't tend to leave a lot of games open like this. Is that a correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So do you, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think that must be much more rewarding. You must have a much better grasp, particularly on a narrative game. If you're doing it in that style, would you say?
Yeah, well, and it's also a lot of it is because I when you get away from something for a while, you forget how to play it. And that's not a fun feeling. It's really not. I'm sure when Assassin's Creed Odyssey gets its new trophies, because they're gonna add more trophies with the new DLC that's coming out next month. Or actually, I think it's this month. You gotta take the time to relearn everything, and I'd rather just get it all done. The things I tend to play when I tend to play multiple games are what was it? Pick-a-Pix, Block-a-Pix Deluxe. That was an easy one to put down because there wasn't a whole lot of gameplay to learn. But also it was just super repetitive. I'm at that point, Red Dead Redemption, where everything is just super repetitive that I can put it down and go work on other stuff for a little while. I guess I'm more focused than you are that way, because you seem to play something for 20 minutes and then go, and you'll do that several times a day, from what I can tell from your trophy list. Unless you literally just load everything on and then play absolutely nothing of anything.
That's my job. I'm a game trophy list checker for Sony. I just load the games up and check the list works. Actually, Sony, if that person's going to retire anytime soon, I am available for that job. I'm sure there must be someone. But no, so Mindy, like, with that idea in mind then, and I know, like, don't hold back here with your assumptions here, but do you think for someone like myself, and I'm going to say Darrell as well, because I think it's similar, I think he's okay to be looped into that category. There are a lot of games that we we stop playing for whatever reason. So we don't have a full grasp of how the game goes on or whatever. Do you like, and I know you're a completionist, so I know this is tied up in this as well, but do you feel like when you start something that you want to see it through, or do you just sometimes, and I'm talking more narrative games here, like do you sort of, study it or research it or read about it first and then commit to that, or do you find you're just pushing yourself through it sometimes?
It really kind of depends. If it's a narrative that I really, or like a game that I really want to play, but I know I'm not gonna go for the platinum, I'll just do it on alt account. No harm, no foul. I'll play it
Okay.
and
Yep.
She's cheating.
get 30% of the trophies or whatever, and then just drop it. If I'm playing it and I know I'm gonna get the platinum, but if I check out of the story, then I just check out, and that's when I will open YouTube or Netflix or something on my laptop and have that playing while I'm going through the rest of the game with kind of half attention on it and half attention to whatever I'm watching on my computer.
Yeah, okay. Now, so I have a question here for you, Darrell, and this is a term that I really hate. In fact, I didn't actually even heard this term until a month or two ago, coming from another gamer. But
Metroidvania?
no, no, no. I see it's well played. I see it's. I still don't know what that means.
Mega Man. Okay, and that's done
Oh,
for another episode.
you got me. I was not expecting either. No, the term is like this fear of missing out. What a dreadful term. Do you think this, like, Darrell, this affects you in that you see new things coming out and you're like, oh, I want to try it. I want to be in the conversation. I want to play it now and see what's going on. Do you feel that at all, or do you not?
No, not me. No, I am, and that's been the great thing about hosting podcasts is like I can control the conversation. So I like to think of myself as a salmon swimming upstream on this one. Now, like I really like to play older stuff, like not like retro old, but like not necessarily what came out the latest and greatest. And again, we talked before the show about content on various podcasts and how people have a tendency to kind of chase the same trends. And like for me, I'm like Mindy in this one, like I'm going to play what I want to play. Now I have certain, what I'm saying, ways that I pick and choose depending on, time of day, company, I'm saying, whatever, my personal interest, things like that. But for the most part, no, I don't have the fear of missing out. I actually have the fear of dying before I complete all my games.
Okay, so this is why I have a problem with this term. So this is the other side of the question then. If you don't, from what you said here, if you believe that, then do you feel that when you're playing a game, do you make a decision? It could be 20 minutes in, an hour, 4 hours, 10 hours, whatever, into the game. Do you feel in your brain, okay, this is enough. This is enough of my time. It could be better spent elsewhere. Do you feel that way then? Not with all games, but with some
Yes.
games.
Yeah, absolutely. There's several games. I'm scrolling through my list right now and I'm like, yeah, I checked out. And sometimes I'll beat the story, I'll beat the campaign. And I don't have enough time to be a completionist. And I really admire people who are, but I like to try a lot of different things. And, like I'll say on one show, yeah, man, I'm going for the platinum on this game. And then I'll get in a bind and things aren't kind of panning out the way I thought they were. My momentum gets taken. And then I'm like, you know what? I buy a lot of games. I buy an absurd amount of games. I got a lot of games I've never opened and haven't played. Me personally, I can't let one game hold me back. I'm a peacock. I got to fly on it.
Yeah, no, okay. So now, Mindy, then I'm going to throw the same question at you then, because as a completionist, you're going to finish things. You're only playing, one or two things at a time or whatever. And I suppose, again, we're dealing more sort of towards narrative games. But do you feel, whether it be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 4 hours, 10 hours into a game, is there a time in your mind where you're like, well, this is enough, but because of, whatever reason you finish stuff, you push through that? Or do you never come to that? You just sort of tolerate it, but you don't actually reach that hard line?
Well, I think I kind of answered it the last time I said something where if I check out, then that's when I hit the just push through with it moment, and that's when I pull up something on YouTube or Netflix.
Yeah, see, but I think it's different because I think what Darrell, like, we're a hard finish on the game, but for you, it's just breaking up the monotony, I suppose, is it? Like you just do something else for a while, but then you're energized to come back to it.
I don't know if energized is the word. I've been dragging my heels on so many things. No, but it did used to be that way. It wasn't always like, the reason I even have a PS3 unfinished backlog is because I either checked out or something else came along that I wanted to play more and I just never got back to it. But I can't think of a single game. There's probably one, but at this point I can't think of a game on my profile that I'm just like, "Oh, hell no. I'm not going back to it."
I can think of 100.
Well, see, I mean, that's why this is a good topic because we're all different. So, Mindy, I'm going to ask Darrell this as well, a two-parter. Is there, and I know this seems like an absurd question, but you have to go with it. Is there a short game that you regret not having finished, or you plan on going back to finish, but you're regretting not having done it so far? A short game.
A short game, like a rack game
Yes.
short, like an hour, or like
5 hours and under, say.
I don't know. I've got the Dragon's Layers game on my Dragon's Lair games on my card. Those are fairly short. I haven't done those yet because you got to play them like 4 or 5 times.
That doesn't sound short.
Well, no, but I mean, if you know what you're doing in Dragon's Lair, it takes 15 minutes. It's not a long game, and it's an FMB game. I just realized you probably might not know what Dragon's Lair is. I regret putting DuckTales Remastered on my profile.
See, okay, now I don't necessarily mean regret as in you wish you hadn't done it. I mean that you haven't actually gone back and finished it yet. Something that you want to finish that you've just been putting off.
Oh, well, I mean, the Dragon's Lair games are easy. Most of my
Yeah.
PS3 backlog, I really do want to finish. Like 3 Dot Game Heroes, I really would like to get that platinum. Deadly Premonition is on there. I would like to get that platinum. What else do I have on here? Alone in the Dark. I'm really sorry I ever put that on my console. Because that game is a buggy mess that freezes up quite often.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few. So Darrell, I mean, you've got 1,000,001 games on there. Is there, and I'm going to ask the same for long games, so we'll make a distinction there of a few hours. Is there a short game that you've been putting off that you do want to play, or have you, or not?
Yeah, I've got a few. So I'll name 2. Just one would be a rat game. I really wish that I would have finished back in 1995. I've got the PlayStation 4
Why?
version. It's reminiscent of those old school games.
I know it is, but
Well, that's the thing. I platinumed one version, but then started the other version and just haven't because, it's like, okay, I wish this was a little bit better. Playing through it the first time was cool-ish, but like I've got like 29% of the trophies on the PS4 version. And every time I look at it, I go, that's an hour and a half of my life that I'm going to have to spend to finish these last few trophies. And I've already done this. So even though I want to do it, I'm like, that's an hour and a half, And then the other one would be something I started relatively recently. And that would be the Watchmen End is Nigh. PS3 games. There's the Watchmen Part 1 and Watchmen Part 2 or whatever. And I as a comic book fan and as a DC fan, I really think that I should enjoy the Watchmen more than I do. And I just don't, like I don't really enjoy the comics that much. I didn't really enjoy the movie, and I really like aspects of it. But so I told myself, I was like, dude, put the game in, go get the trophies for the game.
I think that's more an Alan Moore thing though, right? Like you either really like him or
Right.
you
Very much.
really don't.
And, and so like I told myself if I put the game in and I get all the trophies in the game, because I don't believe it has a platinum. I could be wrong. It's
I
100%.
don't think it does either.
But so, I was like, if I get these trophies, and I learn more about the world, maybe I'll understand the characters better, and then I'll go back and finish the novel, the graphic novel. And, I was like, I want to do it, but I regret not doing it, but it just the time it's going to take to go back through and finish it. I played through it. I beat it once. I got 2 trophies. I'm good. I got to pull the cord.
Excellent. Now, this is what I was fishing for here, listeners. I was hoping someone, I've been deviating the conversation in this direction now for 20 minutes, and we finally got there. So thank you, Darrell. Time management. So now what I want to talk about here is that I've heard you say before, you've even said today, that you don't stack these short games. Like you'll play the Vita and the PS4 version, but you're not doing regional stacks as well. And then you've also said just then as well, and I agree with these things totally, obviously. They're facts, you cannot not argue with them, that the more times you stack games like this, the more time it takes.
Right.
So sure, the game might be an hour, but if you stack it 5 or 6 times, it's, 6 hours or whatever else. Now, Mindy, you don't tend to stack a lot of regional stuff, do you? I know you do a little, but not much.
No, not really. I'll play whatever region I have. And unless there's some sort of, usually if I stack something, it's because there's like a trophy earning event, and I can use trophies from that game to meet whatever the requirements are, and then I'll just mop it up because I'm a completionist. But no, I don't stack in the way that I think most people would call stacking, where you back to back them, or you play all of them just for the trophies.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is I think it's a unique phenomenon, and Darrell, you obviously see it clearly, but I find a lot of I don't know the word, like focused on trophy hunters or high volume trophy hunters. That's probably a better word. They will stack everything, but quite often they'll be the ones that come out and say, I don't have time to play this long game or whatever else. So it would be great to play this long game, but I just don't have the time. And then you go and you look at the list and you're like, well, the 8 times you played that game, that's 8 hours.
Yes.
And they don't seem to see that connection. And I know you two can't comment on that because you don't do this. You don't stack these games 8 times. And I know, it may seem hypocritical, listeners, because I do stack these games, quite often 8 times. But it always amazes me that a lot of people don't seem to see that correlation. They're like, if you have 8 hours, you can spend it here or you can spend it there. And I don't know. Maybe that's part of the addiction coming in with the trophies, but you as you said, Darrell, like you're not interested in region stacking. Is that primarily the reason, the time investment?
Absolutely, and that's one of the things is like you said it. You do the math. You just played a regular full-size game that you otherwise didn't have time for. And so like I like the short experiences. I like the break from big games, medium games, whatever. I like the satisfaction of checking off my boxes, and every now and again I like some of these games are good and I'll do it twice and enjoy it, but again I can't go any farther than that because I had that conversation with myself. Okay, I've been putting off this other game that I bought for $60 because I don't have time, but I just spent 8 hours playing $5 games. Yes. And I get more trophies that way, and sure, that does please me in one area. But then I sit back and I look at my ever growing backlog, and I'm like, I'm never gonna. At that point, I start to feel like I'm drowning. I'm like, okay, wait a second. Last year, 2018 was a good year for me because I beat 79 games. 79 games. I know a lot of them were rat games and things like that, but it's like still 79 games I finished, whether that be beating the campaigns or pushing all the way to the platinum. This year I've had more adult things on my plate that I'm managing. I was like, man, all the time I put in games, I could be a little more successful in life. So I've been trying to offset that. But yeah, exactly what you said. You do the math and it's like, yeah, sure, you could play, 100 rat games a month, or you could play 5 or 6 rat games a month and the Assassin's Creed or the Man of Medan and the Control and but to each his own, whatever ultimately whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, no, of course, each their own. I think I'm in an okay position to say these sort of things because I'm totally hypocritical, obviously, listeners. But I do both, I suppose. I'm not afraid of playing a massively long game, but I do understand that the time that I suck away and lose on these shorter things. So like I don't know. The only thing, and this is something I've been meaning to ask you, we're just slightly deviating, but not hugely. Like, and I know you do this as well sometimes when you're recording or perhaps even when you're editing. Do you ever play games?
Like while
you're editing or while you're, listening back or doing the work in your own podcasting and things like this? Basically, are you incorporating the gaming into sort of your normal working around it? type thing?
Oh, 100% of the time. Like every podcast I record, this one included, every time while I'm editing, everything. Yeah, I am always. I'm playing Saints Row 4 right now. I've gotten a few trophies during this show. It's just something mindless that I could just go in, jump in, do some missions, kill some stuff. I feel like I'm pretty good at talking. It's something I do on a regular, and playing a game at the same time doesn't stop me. So yeah, I always 100%. I'm playing games while I'm podcasting, while I'm editing, while I'm watching TV or movies. If I get around to watching TV and movies. So yeah, and I have to. That's the time management part of it. That's the only way I'm going to get done what I have done.
Yeah, no, look, I totally agree, and I'm not trying to make a defensive line here for these shorter games, listeners, and or even trying to defend my position of playing them. But I mean, it is much the same in the way that I play these games as well. So maybe, and I don't want to appear that we're in any way unhappy. I think all three of us are very very privileged in life or whatever else, and we basically can play whatever we want to a degree. Maybe there's time constraints or whatever, but we're definitely not complaining. I think you can just see that we're just like everybody else. And, I'm sure there are points here you can pick up on where it's just, there is no answer. But I think that the fact that there is no answer is the answer. We've all agreed here, you just play what you want and you play for fun and you play as you like, And I think maybe the only thing we can take out of it is that if you're not a completionist, and I think this is maybe another advantage of being a completionist, is that you only play, as Mindy said, a couple of games at a time. If you're not a completionist and if you're playing all sorts of things all over the place, you've just got to remember that, maybe you never get to see the last 15% of the game or 20%. But, not all games, I'm a firm believer that not all games deserve to be played to completion. So, I mean, it's just a decision that you have to make. I don't know. Mindy, is there anything else you sort of want to, do you have the perfect solution for balance? What do you think?
No, I definitely, if I had it, I would be utilizing it.
Well, it's right, isn't it? It's the same for all of us. Yeah, but just play what you want. The only thing I will put out, because I know I sometimes get some questions, Mindy alluded to, playing things for 20 minutes or so. I do randomly come back to stuff as well and play it. And I do keep, although I've become less focused on this, but I do keep a notebook, because I find with the narrative games, I can't remember if I leave them more than a week or two. So I actually usually just make some notes about what happened or what's roughly happening. And then if I come back to it in 6 months or a year, I can just sort of pick up, because for a while there I was starting games again. And that is I don't know if either of you two do, you probably don't do that on a regular basis.
Oh man, yeah.
But it's such a waste of time, to have to do that 4 hours in and then come back 6 months and restart. So yeah, but look, if you have a solution, listeners, by all means, reach out to us and tell us. But it stumped us, the long and the short of it. I don't know. I don't think we got either side of it, but that's what it is. That's what it is. So look,
what's awesome is I love hearing how other people play games. It's fascinating to me because like I would love, like, part of me wants to be a completionist. Like I just think that like looking at Mindy's profile and that one Seagull's profile and stuff like seeing these people who can keep their crap together long enough to complete all these games. It's like, man, I would love to be that way. And, in 2018, I was striving to get to 50% completion on my profile. 2019, I'm trying to keep it under 5%, like it's, my goals change over time. And it's a lot of that's because I can't necessarily keep it all together.
Yeah. You know what? I'd like just to pick up on that point. Mindy, please jump in if you like. I know a lot of. I don't think all completionists are equal. I understand that if you finish everything, you're a completionist. Therefore, you are. But it depends on what you're playing as well. Like, I mean, I don't really care if you leave all the rat games at 10%. I don't care. It doesn't worry me. But if what I'm more interested in is if you finish the bigger games, because then maybe you can talk to them. And for me, maybe I haven't had the chance to play them, so I get to learn about the game. And it's far easier to learn from someone in half an hour about a 40-hour game than it is to play it yourself. So I suppose that sort of completion is what interests me, and I know, as I said, it all adds up, but a lot of completionists seem very focused on very short games, for trophies or whatever else, but it's the other side. And I think that's why we're so blessed to have Mindy, because, she plays from Assassin's Creed down 100-hour games down to everything. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have any feelings about that, Mindy? Like, do you feel sometimes when I talk about games that I haven't finished that I'm talking out of my depth, or would you prefer to hear do you find you want to hear the 100% completed comments of a game?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it kind of depends. Like, did you play long enough to get a good handle of the gist of it, like, Pencil Hunter? Or is it like a really narrative heavy game that you gave
Yeah,
up on, that you
yeah.
just bailed on? I think it's just a case by case basis.
Well, I would totally agree. So, look, why don't we leave that one there, listeners? I hope we did it some sort of justice by giving you no answers at all to that. There were no answers that will help you. But as Darrell said, I mean, and I agree with you, Darrell. Like, I've reached out to almost every trophy hunter alive now that hasn't barred me or won't speak to me anymore, and I've learned amazing things. People that I mean, that's why trophy hunting is great. People you wouldn't associate with maybe in everyday life, you run into, and you do see other perspectives and just things you would never have considered. Some amazing, some highly alarming, but and everything in between. But it is fascinating. So look, with the highly alarming in mind, there is no better time than to go over to the spam of the week, which excites us all to some degrees, I think. In fact, this is perhaps the spammiest panel we've had for a while, to do spam of the week. So can we find anything for this week? Let's have a look.
Now, Mindy, you mentioned one earlier, right? This week's rat game.
Oh yeah, Hymno.
Hymno. Have you finished that game?
Yeah, it's spam.
How long did
Definitely
how long did it take?
Less than an hour.
Okay, so download it now. Got
it. And there'll be 4 stacks of that, I believe. Now, there's a game here, Habroxia. This is by the same people that made that bread game, Perils of Baking. And now, I know Mindy's played this. Have you played this, Darrell, the Perils of Baking platformer?
I have not.
Yeah.
No, I looked at it a few times, and I believe I looked at the trophy list and wasn't impressed, and I bounced off of it.
Well, potential spam.
Every now and again, I kind of glance just to see if there's some spam out there that I wasn't familiar with, and I like especially a good Vita spam, because that's Vita spam to me is like on the go, on break at the office, waiting outside the karate studio. That's like prime Vita spam time.
It is. That's the time to spread the word. Pull up the soapbox and preach. I like it. Yeah. Man, can we see anything else here? I see we've got a 50 words by Paugi, so that will be our.
They really have turned up the heat on those Paugi games.
They have, haven't they? Yeah. They maybe they feel that they don't have enough of the market now. They see the other, and they want to take more. Yeah, that's actually, to be honest with you, listeners, I forgot for a second. I've actually played this game. I haven't finished it yet, but it's actually quite good. I think potentially it's one you don't need a guide for either. You only need to finish like 10 of the puzzles, so it's nowhere near as long as some of the other ones where you have to do all the puzzles. Yeah, that's okay. Anyone got anything else? Looks a little dry.
And I said y'all mentioned the Pick of Picks Asian stack, right?
Asian stacks, yeah.
I'm gonna throw in possibly the Witching Tower. Looks like this is a VR game that's coming out.
I don't know this one.
Although there is one that there's a trophy for Find All Collectibles.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's a lot of golds and silvers, which is a hallmark of a trophy list.
That's very true.
Or it's a hallmark of a trophy list, a spam list.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, we're gonna have to wrap it up soon. It is getting late over there. I know. So, listeners,
and there's that new puzzle game.
Yes.
The Jigsaw Zen.
Oh yes. That will probably definitely be spam. And then a little bit of high quality, relaxation spam, if you like, is this Newt 1 game for PS4. It's a beautiful little platformer, but very easy platforming, where the world is just basically like a black or a grey and white, and you run over each part and you give it color, and the aim is just to color every level, which is it's a lovely little game as well. Maybe 3 to 4 hours, I think. Very very easy and just super chill. For some reason, I don't know if I did something to my system in that game, because there's music in the title screen, but then there was no music in the game. So either I broke my system there, or it is incredibly relaxing, and you're supposed to sit in silence. I'm not I'm not sure on that one. And then the only other thing I'll throw out, because I know that you're getting tempted to the visual novel side, Darrell. I know you're getting exposed to this a lot lately, and you're fighting the good fight by not, corrupting yourself into that sort of stupidness and silly behavior. But there is very interesting for the listeners that do participate in this, Tokyo Chronos. Now, this I think is labeling itself as the first VRVN. VRVN. That's awesome, isn't it? So I'm not exactly sure how it works, whether it's sort of like a top-down thing or it's more like a movie type situation or not. But apparently it comes in, if you know what you're doing, at around 6 to 7 hours. So not a short VN, but, look, that would interest me, I think, as something different. And it's in English as well. So you could follow it on.
I got a question. As far as the VNs go, I have not finished platinumed a VN yet that I can think of. I've tried several, and I just cannot bring myself. I can't fight through it. Is there, if you had to recommend a VN that was like not incredibly long, but yet still somewhat interesting, and not like not one of the tricky VNs, what would you recommend?
I'd go with one in English.
Yeah.
Do you have any, Mindy, off the top of your head, or?
No, don't think so.
Okay, well, I've got one for you because I know that you like horror. The Death. Now, I'm going to say this wrong, so you might need to correct me. Is it Death Mark? That's right, isn't it? I said it dreadfully a couple of weeks ago.
Death Mark.
So Death Mark, you can play this on Vita or PS4. It's a separate stack. It is in English. I don't think it's overly pricey. It comes in at about, I want to say, 6 to 9 hours. It can be done quicker if you follow a guide. Okay. You don't really, I'm just thinking back to the game. Yeah, you don't really need a guide. The problem with VNs are that it depends how fast your reading speed is, largely. Yeah. So that one, it could take you 15 hours potentially if you don't use any guide. But what I'd suggest is to just have a guide on the side they're sort of walkthrough guides, just so that if you're not sure where to go, you have it there. But I found the story in that really good. It's enough Japanesey that's not too over the top Japanesey, if that makes sense. And it is quite steeped in the culture. Okay. If you want something more over the top, the recent Fatal 12 one, that's a pretty short read, but again, you're looking at maybe 12-hour read is really good. And again, it's playing with sort of this concept of death, and most of them do, is really good. Or if you go away on holidays or retire early and you have more time, the House of Fata Morgana is excellent, but you're looking at like 40 hours potentially in there. But
I'm actually glad you brought up Deathmark again, because I wanted to mention, when you talked about this game, whatever episode it was, you talked about the DLC being included in the PS4 version, not the Vita version. It's worth mentioning that the Vita version does not have the trophies for that DLC, so there's no other than the story, of course, there's no reason to buy it.
So the PS4 list does have it in, but not the Vita.
Right. Well, because it's not DLC on the PS4, it's part of the game.
I mean, to be honest with you, Darrell, if you haven't finished one, I would, because I know you're into anime or comics as well. I'd recommend this one. The unfortunate thing with the English and the American, or the EU and the American version, is it has been censored slightly, because there's some pretty sexually graphic natured pictures in there of the deaths. The Japanese version is not censored, but that doesn't help you if you can't read Japanese. But
actually, it's kind of funny. When I was playing this, I took a couple of screenshots and I sent them to a group chat of mine. I said, "Let's play a new game, obscure porn or Japanese horror game."
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's definitely the most. Well, I don't know. There's tons of, but definitely one of the most on the line or on the nose ones, but not in a distasteless way. Like it has a reason, in the story. They don't just do it for no reason.
Yeah, debatable.
Well, as far as a Japanese visual novel can have a reason, I suppose. But look, yeah, they would be my top three. And, as the listener knows, I've skipped, I won't say thousands, but hundreds probably of VNs at this point. I very rarely choose to read them because of the time commitment. I'm sure I've missed many, many a great one, but those three I think are phenomenal. And, varying time lengths as well, depending on what you want. So, look, there's tons of spam. There's a topic. There's talking, blah, blah. What more could you want, listeners? Well, maybe you could, you would like your platinum pictures read out. So we could do that really quickly. I've noticed that we've had a bit of a growth in the Push2Plat Platinum Club. That could be, misclicks or people that, I don't know, they're interested in joining. Geez, I don't know. Maybe they want to hear Dat1 Seagull's rise to Plat 300, which is fantastic. Good luck to you, sir, on that. But for the people that have earned platinums this week, we're going to start with, now this is the first platinum for Shadow Soldier 1. Congratulations, sir. And it was Kingdom Come Deliverance. I don't know if either of you know this game.
Oh, yeah. That's a big
one. This is a big game. Do you know this, Mindy?
I haven't played it, but I'm familiar with it.
Does anyone know who owns this game now?
Is it THQ Nordic?
It is THQ. They bought it recently. So. But it's supposed to be incredibly deep systems in this game as well, and not easy at all. So that's a fantastic first platinum. Congratulations, sir. Mindy, of course, 518 with Memories Retold, we talked about today. Olcero Plat 550 with Newt 1, a cheap, easy peasy game. Not sure why not many people have played it. You're right. It is great. I'm glad you enjoyed it too. Shadow Soldier 1. Now, this is what I love. This is what I love about what we're doing here. We're bringing people together. His first platinum, a fantastic game, Kingdom Come Deliverance. His second platinum, Coffin Dodgers. Look, and he says it's an excellent kart race, and it really is. It is an excellent kart race. But, look, that it's a fun game, yeah. And look, I'm glad we're exposing you to the darker side of trophy hunting. I don't know if you'd have found that with that. That's a game right up our alley. And then Zador, VP 429, Bonds of the Skies, another Chemco one. Unlike the newest podcast opinions on them. Oh, no, we don't need to read that bit. Okay, yeah, perfect. That is a Chemco one. You haven't played that one, Mindy, have you? Bonds of the Sky?
No, the only Chemco RPG I've played is Dragon Sinker. But I had two or three of them that I've purchased, but the only one I've played right now is Dragon Sinker.
They're still coming out. I see there's another one this week as well. And then Teresa, Hymno. That's how we say it, isn't it? She's done that as well. Half an hour plat, more like the rat spam we know and love. Well, that's very true. Yeah. I'm a little bit worried about that game now you've told me, Mindy. I think there might be a small skill factor involved, so I may need to pass on that, listeners. But, we'll see. It is what it is. So, look, unless anyone else has got any, opinions or, whatever they want to throw out here to the audience, we might wrap it up today, I think. And I'd like to thank you, Darrell, for joining us.
Oh, anytime. Thank you for having me.
Not at all. It's always a pleasure. Darrell, if we're trying to find you in a guest position, I suppose, where should we look?
I'm the host of PG Spoilers. That is the ProvenGamer.com's flagship podcast. I am a frequent guest host on Trophy Horrors, and seems like I'll be on a lot of episodes coming up in the future. I am in
they got a trophy horror on the Trophy Horse.
It really is, things are all full circle now. But I'm in the Push2Plat community now. I actually just added it myself as we were talking.
Misclick.
And other than that, yeah, absolutely. It's funny because you said misclick, and I was trying to find it just happens,
Yeah, it does.
ResidentDarrell on the PSN. I don't do a ton of social media stuff. I've got Facebook groups for PG Spoilers and the Loot Bros podcast, which is on an indefinite hiatus. One day it will rise from the grave.
Mm-hmm.
So
excellent. Yeah, thank you. And Mindy, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at TheMindIsACity. I'm also over on PlayStationTrophies.org. I also have a coffee. ko-fi.com/TheMindIsACity. It's just a little tip jar to say thank you for writing all those guides that I used for my platinums, and it just just a little tip jar that helps finance games so that I can write more guides.
Perfect. And the show has a Twitter at push2plat, the number 2plat, or an email at push2plat@gmail.com. push2plat@gmail.com. Please feel free at any stage to reach out to us, like many listeners already have. If you have a question, comment, or concern, if it's a concern, we'll probably register it and do nothing about it. But you should still try. It's always worth having a go. But we're
not
definitely
EA.
Sorry,
CJ.
Well,
We're not EA.
We're not the most hated company in America yet. Well, we can keep trying.
If there's a concern, we may very well address it.
Have we got the loot boxes ordered in yet? No, that's next week, isn't it? Okay, so we'll wait till they come before we announce that. But
we'll make it a Patreon reward tier.
Oh, really?
Surprise!
Surprise me! Surprise! There's nothing on this Patreon. You just paid for it. I like it. That's how we'll get them in. Okay, so with that in mind, I don't know where we're up to. Okay, so the show is available on iTunes Podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and all good podcast providers. As always, thank you for joining us. I've noticed that we're continuing to grow in listenership. Again, that could be misclicks, that could be people finding out about us from your wonderful recommendations, or I don't know how it's happening. I don't understand the internet most of the time. Anyway, listeners, as many of you know, but please do us the favor, if you are enjoying it to some degree, please spread the word. It definitely does help us in lots of ways, finding new wonderful guests to talk to, and bring to your ears as well. So with that in mind, we're gonna.
I don't know how our listenership is growing, but please tell people about this podcast and to listen to it.
Yeah, look, I don't know how any of this works. I just turn on the computer and you're here. So I don't know what's going on half the time, but it's working, I don't know if you're living. Are you real? Hopefully this is all real and I'm not inside my head now, but if I am, then I've had the meltdown that many people are waiting for, I believe. So until that time, listeners, you'll be stuck with me and Mindy again next week. We look forward to it. Happy trophy hunting. May the platinums be kind, long or short, bronze, silver or gold, I suppose. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks, Darrell. Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.